I guess so. How are you today?
I'm well. How about you?
Oh, fine, thank you.
Good.
I'm so happy to talk to you.
Well, I'm really happy to connect with you too. So you had said that you've been involved, I think it was for 30 years, supporting people who are suicidal and
exactly.
not committing suicide. And that it was kind of a calling. It was something that just arrived on you as something that you had to do. Can you tell me about, your progression towards supporting people with suicidal challenges?
I knew you would ask me so. When you work with that kind of people, generally it's because suicide had touched your life. My father did when he was 80 years old. And after that, of course, it began to be an easy way out for me because suicide does that. And after a while, I really choose to live, really. And then I began to have training and to think about this problematic. And that's it. I took some course at university in McGill and Laval. Not certificate or whatsoever like that, because there's no, that's simple, there's no. I had at that time many friends who were psychologists. And we decided together, for some of them, to build something, community, how do you say, community, it's not the business.
An association, mutual support.
Exactly. Yeah. So for 13 years, I've been supported by those people. And it was a lot easier for me to get in touch with the person in crisis, because most of them had been through very frustrating experience with psychologists or psychiatrists before. So because I wasn't, it was so easier for me to get in touch and to talk with them. And when I had any kind of, interrogation, I could count on my, how do you say, my friends or my co-workers. So that's it. It's a big thing for me. It's still. But after 13 years, without a Christmas, without a Valentine's Day, without any vacation or whatever, and I did it besides my own business in communication. Mm-hmm. So all my clients knew and were okay with that. Some of them finance our activities. And, but after 13 years, I was just exhausted.
Yes.
And I stopped when a guy came to me with a bad problem, and I didn't have anything to tell him because I was I understood so well why he wanted to get out of this mess. Yes. And then I told myself, okay, it's over for you. No more, energy and But still, I'm doing some coaching for people who face a difficult passage in their life. And somehow, I know there will be some suicidal crisis again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay, but not just that,
Yes. Yeah.
I just can't now.
Yeah. It's really draining. I know some people who support people with suicide, and I had a stage between age 7 and 35 where I was suicidal, and I wasn't suicidal all the time, but I was suicidal enough of the time that I needed to know what my exits were if I was going to go. And
yes, I understand that very well, because I've been through that myself.
Yeah. And so have you worked with people who are in the autistic spectrum, who have dyslexia, ADHD, autism, Asperger's, Tourette's?
I worked with a lot of people with dyslexia, mm-hmm. and some who had diagnosis of mental health, mm-hmm. and many who were maybe Asperger, but not diagnosed. So for the, it's the only, I think it's the only autistic person I've gone with. Mm-hmm. But, besides of it,
Tu peux le dire en français si c'est trop difficile en anglais, et je peux traduire un peu.
Okay, very good. So if I miss a word, I will be able to count on you. So I've been part of a CA, a board, for an house who they welcome people with mental retardation and behavior problems.
Yeah.
So I worked with them a lot too, mm-hmm. directly, because the house, the welcome house, was of my friends, very best friends. So it was easy for me to give them some help sometime.
Yeah.
So that's it for but I think it's big anyway. It's big anyway. And I wrote a memoir to be able to train peers and other people in schools or in workplace. And I know that the suicide, l'association de suicidologie, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Got it and use it a lot.
That's great.
But they never gave me the credit, but it's not a problem because I'm not a psychologist myself.
Right, right.
And
is it available for sale, Solange? Is it available?
It's I never sold it, of course. I can send it to you if I can find it, because it's quite an old version of Word.
Right.
But if I can transfer it in a new one, I will, for sure, with pleasure. It's in French, for sure.
It's in French. Have you looked at just loading it into Amazon for sale? Like, there are lots and lots of guides and books in Amazon.
No, I never thought about that. Could be a great idea if I can make the transfer to and place it on. Yes,
Yeah.
digital books or whatever. I never thought about that.
Well,
To be honest with
I'm
you.
just thinking that would make it accessible to a lot of people, and
Yes.
yeah, maybe we can talk about what it would look like to work on an English version as well. So you've got
Yes.
versions up
Great.
there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I will. I will find it somewhere.
Okay.
In
All
my,
right. Well, there's a relatively well laid out process, and if some of the pieces you don't know how to do, you can usually go and get a virtual assistant to do some of that for you.
okay.
But, so in terms of working with people in the autism spectrum, Asperger's or dyslexia, is there anything in particular that you've noticed?
Yes. Yes, of course. And for that, those people, what I noticed is their huge difficulty to make them understood and to be in joyful and normal contact with other people. Most of them I knew were feeling dismissed, or, se sont sentis souvent mis à part et
Devalued.
devalued, exactly. Some of them I know because of the house I've been on the board, have great difficulty to communicate and even name their emotion.
Yes.
And they are intense, really intense. in some ways that someone like you and me have bad time to understand. A sound, color, luminosity, all that kind of things that make them so uncomfortable.
Yes.
That they aren't able to cope with.
Yes.
And the crisis is never very far. It's,
yes. The stress level is always so high that
yes.
It doesn't take much to take them over the threshold into a crisis.
Exactly. And when they are in that kind of frantic state, I'm sure it is so painful that I believe they just break. Mm-hmm. And think about the solution, not to be so painful.
Yes.
But for everyone, it's almost the same. Just the floor is different. I mean by that when you are seriously thinking about suicide, you are under a huge stress. Mm-hmm. Whatever could cause it, but it's a huge stress, a sense of being isolated, mm-hmm. not understood by anyone, mm-hmm. and a little bit shy.
Yes.
And devaluated on your own eyes, mm-hmm. and unable to connect with others to protect yourself against what you feel like an aggression. Yeah. So your anger grows and grows and grows and grows, and just go over yourself. Yeah. And I really believe that for people who have mental retardation or an autistic person, it could happen more frequently and more heavily.
Yes. Yeah.
Because as I told you, I've been looking and reading a lot of things after we talked together. And finally, I told myself, it's quite the same. And the only thing that changes is the floor.
Yes. Yes. And I call that floor the the background stress.
Exactly.
And so background stress in the general population, in people who don't have autism, like, like most of the people at the event I met you at, they're not dealing with a very high background level of stress. Mm-hmm. But when, as you call it, when the floor of stress is so high, it takes so very little to get to unbearable.
Exactly.
And unbearable levels of stress they're unbearable for any of us. It's just that many people don't recognize how unbearable the constant background stress is for life for an autistic.
And in fact, I made the parallel with kids' suicide.
Yes.
Because kids don't have the power to change anything in their environment. And that kind of stress goes so high that they commit suicide in, kind of a minute. Yes. It's really unpredictable because, it happens really fast.
Really fast.
And it's the same, I think, I believe, for the people you are taking care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in a certain way, in our world, I don't think about Asperger because Asperger are really, really brilliant and everything. But for the other form of autism, it could be so painful and difficult to cope with the rhythm of the world.
It is the same for people with Asperger's.
Oh,
yeah, most people don't realize that in order to show up as someone who can participate in integrated social environments, there's so much background time put into self-care and peaceful space and bringing your own internal state to a state of peace. And it's very, very easy to overdo. It's very easy to spend too much time in an overstimulating, highly uncomfortable social setting where self-care is not permitted. Heaven forbid you start to stim in a social environment. But, the stress level can get so high when you're trying to participate in things that other people just think, well, it's normal. Everybody can do that. And they don't realize everybody can't, because that background level of self-care, in order to sustain a lower floor of stress, is so intensive. For most of it amounts to at least a part-time job. We're talking 20 to 30 hours a week.
Okay. The people I've met with that kind of problem, how could I say? I knew about their difficulties of connection and working with others and everything. To get set like normal people to get in touch and everything. I knew for that. But I never realized that it was that self-care which were missing.
Yes.
And now you tell me so, and I really understand. And in a certain way, I remember that one of my suggestions to them was exactly that. But I never made the link consciously.
The problem is that when you are nestled in a culture, and often in a family, that consistently dismisses your needs and devalues what you have to offer.
Yes, of course.
You personalize it, you take it internally. And
course,
when others don't value you, how do you begin to value yourself? How do you not dismiss your own needs? It's an internal revolution that has to come about if you're going to not suicide.
Exactly. And, you know, even for really, you know, person without autistic spectrum problem, I saw a lot of people, and I did it so myself, who achieved something very important for them, but were so exhausted and with such a big stress.
Yes.
And it seems impossible to go further.
Yes.
And having the chance to get devalued and, you know, rejected or whatsoever, because it wasn't possible for them to give anything more.
Yes.
And for sure, artistic person and really performers are perfectionists.
Mm. Well, we do see things in black and white. You know, you've got it right, or it's not good enough. It's bad. It's wrong. And, you know, when you can constantly see, you know, part of the autistic mind frame is that problem solving, that constantly seeing a situation in terms of what could be better and what could be better and what could be better. And knowing that no matter how much better you get it, it's never going to be perfect.
Exactly. And it's, for me, it's a ground for this high stress. It's a very good ground, even for someone who is not an autistic person.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of thought are dangerous.
Very.
You know, during Lyft, we had a lot more, not a lot more, a lot of thinking about échec. When you fail.
Yeah. Yes.
And the courage that it takes to go over that and try again.
Yes.
And for those people who are disadvantaged in a certain way, it's kind of impossible to be always in a failure.
Yes.
Even if others are, you know, I'll think that what they did was awesome.
Yes. Yeah. And when you have such a bleak internal picture of who you are and what you're capable of, even when you achieve things that others are awed by and that see as outstanding, you see yourself as part of the problem.
Exactly.
And you cannot internalize their appreciation, their caring.
Yes, exactly. And when I made lectures or workshop on this precise thing. I used to say, when you wake up on the morning with a bouton sur le nez, how do you say?
Like a breakout acne or a pimple?
Yes, exactly, a pimple. And what you wanted to wear is not available because it's in the laundry. And you feel, and you can manage your hair or whatever. You feel so bad that even if someone tells you that very day that you look awesome, you will really believe that you want just to laugh at you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And someone who is suicidal has always this sensation of being
not good enough, unacceptable, unworthy, undeserving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if people around you just, admire what you have done, you can't believe it. It's impossible to internalize.
Yeah.
And I really believe that many, many, many children are living with that kind of,
overwhelming stress.
Yes.
Yeah. Lack of
and
self-love.
Sadness, not only stress.
Yeah.
It could be anger, but it's so often sadness.
Deep grief. Yes.
Grief, deep inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
for the people that you've worked with who have dyslexia or ADHD or Asperger's, for these people, what have you found helpful?
Of course, it's the big deal. First, I always use a huge understanding. And for many of them, it was like, you understand. And they were surprised that I could tell them, yes, I know because I went through that. And I just acknowledge how you could feel like that. And it was the first block of the relationship, usually.
Mm-hmm.
Because people, when they hear about suicidal crisis, they just freak out.
Yes. Yes.
They don't know how to what to say and what to do, and they are just freak out.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to tell you not to do that.
Yes.
And in fact, one of the techniques which really worked well for 13 years was exactly
the opposite.
The opposite.
Yes.
Yes, okay. You want to make it over? Okay. No problem. I understand what you say, and I understand how do you feel. Just let me stay with you, because nobody deserves to die alone.
Yeah.
And it was like a key phrase, a key.
Oh yeah. I mean, you just hit me deep.
Oh yeah, I can see it. Because that's exactly the period of time that you can't afford to be judged.
Exactly.
You can't afford to talk with someone who just freak out.
Yeah.
Your stress is so high. It's not helpful at all.
Yes.
But let me stay with you. And I remember once it was a policeman, and I worked a lot with police around here.
Mm-hmm.
And they just had him in my house, you know. And after I told him, oh, okay, I will be with you, really completely with you. But first, because he was harmed.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him, listen, my little boy is here. Let me find someone who can pick him up and make it secure,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay. So he put his arm, his pistol, on the table. It was armed, you know.
Oh.
And when I sit in front of him, he told me, what the hell could you tell me to help in what I'm living through? And I say, I don't know. I really don't know what I could tell you. But yes, you're allowed, because, you know, putting the arm on the table was kind of a defiance behavior. So I told him, okay, let him there. And if I don't have any kind, I can't be of any kind of help for you, do it.
Yeah.
But let me be with you. It went on for 36 hours in a row.
Oh my goodness.
And at last, we had a deal of news, you know. And many years after, once a year, he called me and he told me, you saved my life. I'll never forget about that. And, you know, I'm always really, how do you say, emotive.
You're very touched. You're very touched. Yeah.
Yes. And it was probably the most stressful situation. But I went through a lot of other situations like that, but without the arm. But sometime on the bridge, sometime, you know, in kind of situation that, of course, it would have been easy for them.
Yes.
To go through whatsoever they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm telling you the key is let me be with you.
Yes.
And to be calm, very calm.
To hold on to your own state of peace and balance.
Yes.
And to listen really well.
Exactly.
And to ask good questions.
Yes, and so many times, just taking what they are saying, just to reflect.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really believe that nobody on earth think that you're important? Or you really think that it's not possible for you to go a step further? Just to say that, you know, it's kind of, wow, maybe it's not that that terrible. Many times it was just a reflection. But in with a question mark.
You know, it's so interesting you saying that, because in many ways, my list of my top 3 ways to exit that I kept from age 7 to age 35 was my opportunity to go, okay, have I given up hope enough that this is my best option now? And every time I would pull those out, I would review them and I'd go, yep, I could do that. I could do that. I could do that. But I still have a feeling that there's something in here that I haven't got yet. I haven't explored yet, that I don't get yet. And still having, despite the despair, despite the stress, despite the overwhelm, despite the self-hatred, feeling like there was still something rich in life that I had not quite captured. And I had enough motivation to keep going for that.
Exactly. And that's exactly what kept me alive too. And that's why I add this formulation. Are you sure? Because for me, it's a 3-step process. First one is a basic hatred. Se détester.
Oh, self-hatred.
Yes.
Yes.
Then it comes something that blows it up. And at last, there's just a little drop of water, you know, that makes it flows out. So many times it was a heartbreaking story, or, you know, ruptures, divorce, whatever. But it was on this ground of self-hatred.
Yes.
And it just confirmed this, you know, this way of thinking that I'm not lovable.
Yes. And I will never be lovable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you put a larger horizon, you know, there's something that tells you, yes, maybe it's too, you know, it doesn't deserve
it's
that
not
kind.
That kind of response.
Yes, exactly.
That the trigger that happened, as big as it feels, killing yourself is out of balance with
Yes.
with the level of disruption and pain.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it makes me tell that people who are in suicidal crisis are generally really intense in life.
Yes.
You know, pain and joy are at the same place. In a round personality where everything goes there and, you know, goes up and down.
Yes.
And many times I had to tell the person, and that's why I told you before that, yes, it was a kind of answer that I gave a lot of times. What could you do? What makes you feel good or better? What could be what could ease your pain?
Yes.
because I know how much you are in pain. What could drop it down a little?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And after that, trying to open the circle. Is it possible for you to find a place in that circle? Because I was drawing the circle. Where are you find yourself a little better?
Yes.
And, you know, to be able to flatten the line a little.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why, and with Asperger's, it was more difficult because they don't know how to feel comfortable.
When a body and when your emotions and when your thinking are so uncomfortable all the time, and you have not been given tools for finding comfort, and the ways that you would naturally find comfort are things that alienate other people, upset other people, and anger other people. And so you feel you have to hide the ways you take care of yourself. It's such a profound dishonoring.
Yes,
and
I understand.
Yeah.
And I really believe, and it was part of the sensibilization that I gave to peers and family and working place and everything, or school or whatever, to make people understand how much this person is in pain.
Mm-hmm.
And many parents who lost their child with suicide, every time I had to meet with that kind of situation, I always compare the pain of the suicidal crisis, what made them go through it,
Mm-hmm.
to a cancer at terminal phase.
Yes. It's the
Because
same energy. You know, you get cancer when some part of you has said, I don't want to be here.
Exactly.
It's the same energy. Yeah.
And it's the same pain, but it's not physical. And it's a lot worse because physically you can have some morphine and care and all the thing. But with the pain like that, profound and aigu, how do you say that? Really
Acute.
acute. There's nothing that make you feel better. Nothing.
The only thing that can make you feel better is laughter. And
yes.
It can be very hard to get to laughter from that place. But if you can even have a moment of stepping back and laughing.
Or even just smile.
Even just a smile. Yeah. But it has to be a real smile. It has to be a smile.
Yes, of course.
Inside. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And yes, it was one of my arm, I could say, one of the key. But to be used really carefully, not for the people to feel that you laugh at his pain.
No, it really needs to, yeah. My grandfather was in a really rough state about 10 years before he died. He was in the hospital in a lot of pain. And I came in and there were about 6 relatives standing around his bed. And they were looking just shocked because my grandfather, who was an Anglican minister, was saying, "I've had enough, just throw me out the window." And so I'm walking into the room, and, you know, my grandfather and I have had a fun relationship, And I just said quite loudly from the door as I'm walking towards him, I said, "Papa, would you like to be thrown out the window in the hospital bed or without it?" And you could see him picturing it in his mind, and he just started laughing.
Yes, of course.
And it wasn't that I was making fun of him. It's that I was saying very seriously, I get that this is how bad it is. How do you want to do it? And that he knew that one way or another, if he really wanted to do it, I'd help him.
Yes, exactly. And this complicity, how do you say, is it the right word?
Yes.
This proximity is so important if you want to help someone.
Yes.
There is no way and that's why psychologists had trouble with those people.
Yes.
It's because, there's a distance.
And because they have all of these regulations.
Yes, and a known path. How do you want to do it and why? And, on a scale, where are you? And, what do you plan? It's quite...
all in the head. It's all analytical, and it's not coming from that place of, I've been there. I know what that's like. Exactly.
It's not the same at all. And it's the reason why it worked so well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Because people understood that I won't ever go this just analytical and, straightforward way, or judging.
Yes.
It's judgment.
So much judgment. So Solange, is there anything else that you would like to say to parents of autistics or educators of autistics or to autistics themselves about suicide and autism?
Okay. First, I would tell parents to be more, how could I put it, inclusive of that kind of kid. To be more calm.
Yes.
And show a lot more of acceptability.
Yeah. So in my words, I would say the parents need to find their own state of peace and balance.
Exactly.
And model it and show how much they accept and love their autistic child the way they are. And at the same time, model that process of coming back to a calmer and calmer state.
Yes, exactly.
And not that not being calm, there's anything wrong with it. It's just that it's such a difficult place to live.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I really believe that not all, but it could be helpful to get those people to have and to pet and take care of an animal.
Yes.
Because the animal will show them always they are lovable.
Yes.
And it's not the same than being touched by another human, which carries a lot of stress, than to be touched by a dog maybe, or a cat. It's not the same at all.
No, It's not.
That's, for me, it's kind of something very important, to make them feel a calm and friendly relation.
Yes. And, you know, a loving welcome. There's really nothing like a cat, you know,
Yes.
sort of, you know, hopping up a little bit to rub their head against your leg with that, brr, you know, to
yes,
say,
exactly.
it's, you know?
And you know, it's
or a dog
proven.
running up and going, the tail's wagging, and it's just like, oh, you're here, you know?
And it's been proven that it lowers the blood pressure.
Yes.
To pet and, you know, to have a pet with us.
Mm-hmm.
And if it helps to reduce the blood pressure, for sure it reduces stress.
Yes. Yes.
Because the same thing.
Same thing.
Exactly. And finally, making them acknowledge daily and as much as possible what they are able to do and to achieve.
Yes. Celebrate.
Yes, celebrate and
celebrate what is possible rather than focus on what is not.
Exactly. Exactly. Because it's flattened the line.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes that stress down, down, and down.
Exactly.
Solange, thank you so much. So I didn't do this at the beginning, but this is Solange Pelland from Quebec City. She has worked for years in supporting people who have been at risk of suicide and has had an incredible rate at suicide prevention and at support of families who've been left behind. Yes. And I just, I'm so grateful that you're willing to spend some time.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
What you've learned with the people that I support, because this is such a difficult space for people to hear, to talk about, to think about, and yet the solutions are very, very simple and have to do with better quality of life for everyone. So thank you so much.
And you know, I'm sure that because you've been through that kind of pain, you are surely the best person to help.
Yeah.
Because your understanding, it's profound, deep. And that's all it could be needed. Feeling understood by someone who have a lot of love in her heart or his heart. Mm-hmm. Benevolence and, you know, calm and could I say accountable attitude.
Yeah.
Because the last thing that it's very important for me is for parents or whatever people around, teachers and co-workers or whatever. It's important to understand that you can be more present and more connected when you don't fall in the problem.
Yes.
You must stay sur la rive to put something in the water to take him out. If you go in the water, there will be two deaths.
If you go in the water, You need to take care of yourself first. You need to stay above water, and you need to extend tools to that person that will help buoy them up without dragging you down.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And in panic, everyone will try to throw you down. It's not because they are that kind of, but it's normal.
Yes.
So if we want to be efficient and to be accountable for a long time, we must be very, very close to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I have an horse. I've been a horse passionate for all my life. And I know that when I'm stressed or, concerned about anything, my horse won't go to me.
Yes. Your horse picks up your stress and goes, there's a predator. There's something wrong. What is wrong? I don't feel safe. I don't want to be around this not safe. Yes.
Person, you're absolutely right. And I really believe that for autistic person, there's an instinct that could be compared.
Yes.
So it's so important for everyone who want to be with them to take very good care of her or himself.
Yes.
And prepare themselves to stay in a reassuring mood.
Stay in humility, but stay in their own state of peace and balance and capacity to listen and capacity to respond. Because as soon as you step into stress and overwhelm, you are reacting to a situation instead of acting from a place of how do we restore peace and balance.
Exactly. It's a concern for me whenever someone tells me that he has to face it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important. And what helped me throughout those years, it was, if you want to be of some kind of help yourself first.
Yes.
And, I'm someone really generous, and I don't know how to count. That's all. I'm very bad at accounting. And it was important for me to remind me every single day, what do you need to be accountable?
Mm.
And many times, for people who were really intense, or, the intervention went for a long period of time, then I asked them to take care of me.
Yes. Notice when I seem to be getting tired.
Yes.
Notice when my mood seems to be falling. Because if you can help me notice these things, when I'm a little too beyond myself to notice them for myself, I can do the self-correction that will bring me back into balance.
Yes, exactly.
But when I'm left on my own, I'm not always going to see those critical moments of, oops, gone too far, dropped off the edge.
Exactly.
We need other people around us. We need this level of paying attention.
Yes, but I asked it to the person in crisis.
Yes.
Take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
If you want me to stay with you, take care of me.
Yes.
And it was a part of, how do I say, resolution.
Yes. Because it was a recognition that you need that care as well to stay
Yes,
in peace
and
and
not
balance.
only
And
that,
why should they not accept that care to stay in peace and balance if you're asking for it and receiving it?
exactly. And it told them, you are able to take care of someone.
Yes.
Not look at yourself.
Yeah.
You can go outside and give the support too. And for me, I really oftenly see that it was helpful
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for both of us.
Yep. Yeah.
And when, of course, with the long-term intervention, it was clear that they could call me during the night or whatever. But at a certain point, I had to say, I will be up and running and relax and okay at 6 o'clock in the morning. But at 3, it's a lot more difficult. So what can you do now? Could you eat some ice cream? Could you have,
Yeah.
a tisane? Could you just put some music? Could you? And after 1 or 2 times like that, they told me on the very early hours in the morning, I had some ice cream.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
So it's good too, because that's it. It makes us laugh.
Yeah.
And it's step by step to normal life.
Mm-hmm. So Solange, I'm going to have to wrap up because of the time, but I am just so appreciative. Thank you for taking some time out. And I have sent you an email. If you want to just talk to me about where your document is at.
Yes, I will try to find it.
Because I really think that's an important thing to have out as a resource. And if we have it as a resource that's available to people easily, I'll share that link on the blog post where I'm sharing this interview, because any tool like that is so important.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Okay.
And take care of you.
You too.
Thank you.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.